The pursuit of wealth is a journey with a hidden and tragic destination, a golden cage. Most who embark on this path, even those who succeed, end up as prisoners to their own success, wealthy but not free. They learn the rules of accumulation, but they never learn the art of liberation. But there is another path, a quieter, more ancient way. It is the path of the alchemist. What you are about to experience is the complete Alchemist's Ledger, a single, unified masterclass on the timeless art of turning knowledge not just into gold, but into a life of absolute freedom. This is not a collection of tips. It is a complete codex, a sequential journey through the 5 great stages of financial creation. First, we will begin the great work with the principle of transmutation, learning to separate the lead of worthless information from the pure gold of timeless wisdom. Then, we will perform the essential purification with the Formula of Dissolution, identifying and neutralizing the 7 toxic mindsets that guarantee financial ruin. With a pure vessel, we will then learn to create. The Formula of Coagulation will teach you to forge your first invincible asset from the chaos of the market. From there, we will accelerate the work with the law of multiplication, decoding the secret of the great lever that the wealthy use to build empires. And finally, we will complete the journey with the principle of distillation, the sacred final act of transforming your wealth into the elixir of pure, untethered freedom. This is a masterclass designed to be absorbed as a single, uninterrupted lesson. There is no need to take notes. Simply allow the principles to settle as we unlock the complete manuscript. The ledger is open. The great work begins now.
The Great Work. In the quiet annals of history, there were whispers of a secret art known as alchemy. Its practitioners sought the philosopher's stone, a mythical substance said to be capable of the ultimate transformation, turning common, worthless lead into pure, incorruptible gold. This quest was not just about metal. It was a metaphor for a deeper transformation, a search for profound wisdom. Today, that secret art is more real than ever, but it is practiced in the boardrooms and private offices of the world's most successful dynasties. They have discovered that the ultimate transmutation is not of lead, but of knowledge. They have mastered the art of turning intangible ideas into tangible wealth. This is the first secret from the Alchemist's Ledger. This is the principle of transmutation. Before you can build a fortune, you must first learn how to distinguish the lead from the gold. The lead of information. Our world is drowning in financial lead. It is the endless stream of stock market news, the breathless predictions of television pundits, the hot tip from a friend, the complex jargon designed to sound intelligent. This is the lead of financial information. It is heavy, it is abundant, and it is ultimately worthless. Why? Because it is designed to provoke a reaction, not to inspire wisdom. It preys on the 2 emotions that are fatal to an investor, fear and greed. It encourages you to act now, to chase the latest trend, to panic during a downturn. It creates the illusion of being informed while fostering the reality of being perpetually distracted. The amateur collector spends their life gathering this lead, mistaking its weight for value. They fill their minds with noise, their portfolios with fleeting trends, and their hearts with anxiety. They believe they are participating in the market, but they are merely being consumed by it. The first step in the alchemist's journey is to recognize this lead for what it is, a toxic distraction, and to begin the purification process, the gold of wisdom. If information is lead, then wisdom is gold. It is rare, it is incorruptible, and it has held its value for centuries. Financial wisdom is not about knowing what the market will do tomorrow. It is about understanding the principles that never change. It is the deep knowledge that human nature is cyclical, that fear is a more powerful motivator than greed, that all bubbles, without exception, eventually pop. It is the understanding that the value of a company is not its stock price, but its ability to generate cash and defend itself from competition. It is the knowledge that the most powerful force in the universe is not a market trend, but compound interest working its magic in silence over decades. This wisdom is not found on a news channel. It is found in the study of history, in the biographies of great investors, and in the quiet observation of human behavior. Unlike lead, gold is not heavy, it is clarifying. It simplifies the world. It allows you to ignore the noise and focus only on the few things that truly matter. The alchemist does not seek more information. They seek the timeless principles that make most information irrelevant. The furnace of history. So how does the alchemist perform this transmutation? How do they separate the worthless lead of information from the priceless gold of wisdom? They use a furnace, and that furnace is history. History is the ultimate stress test for any financial idea. An idea that sounds brilliant today might be revealed as foolish when placed in the crucible of a past crisis. The alchemist takes every new trend, every can't-miss opportunity, and subjects it to the intense heat of historical precedent. They ask, has this pattern appeared before? What happened during the South Sea bubble of 1720? What happened during the Great Depression? What happened during the dot-com crash? The furnace of history burns away the hype, the jargon, and the wishful thinking. The lead melts down and is discarded. What remains, what survives the flame of a dozen market collapses and 100 years of volatility is the pure, incorruptible gold of a timeless principle. This is why the wise investor is a student of history first and a participant in the market second. They have seen how the story ends, time and time again. The final transmutation. The final and most important step of the alchemical process is not external, but internal. You can gather all the golden wisdom in the world, but it remains useless until you internalize it, until it changes the very way you think. The final transmutation is the shift in your own mindset. It is the moment you stop thinking like a gambler, chasing quick profits, and start thinking like a custodian, focused on permanent value. It is when your emotional reactions to market swings are replaced by a calm, logical adherence to your principles. This is the true secret. The alchemist does not just turn lead into gold. The great work was always about purifying the alchemist himself. By learning to distinguish worthless noise from timeless wisdom, you begin this process. You change your own nature, and when you do that, you no longer have to chase wealth. You begin to attract it. This is the first and most profound secret of the Alchemist's Ledger. Thank you for your time. The next chapter will detail the 7 psychological poisons that prevent wealth creation. If you find this knowledge valuable, you know what to do.
Every great fortune that is lost twice. First, it is dissolved on the balance sheet, a visible, often catastrophic event. But long before that, it was lost in the mind of its owner. It was corroded by a series of hidden, toxic beliefs. Welcome to the second chapter of The Alchemist's Ledger, the Formula of Dissolution. Before we can build, we must first purify. In this video, we will identify the 7 great mental poisons, the toxic mindsets that are the true architects of financial ruin. These are the silent habits of thought that guarantee mediocrity and turn generational wealth back into dust. You can expect this to be a mirror, a diagnostic tool. As we explore each of these 7 mindsets, from the ego of the gambler to the anchor of pride, I want you to look for their reflection in your own thinking. By recognizing these patterns, you can neutralize their venom and finally prepare your mind to become a true vessel for lasting wealth.
The first and most seductive poison is the ego of the gambler. This is the mindset that masterfully confuses the slow, deliberate work of investing with the adrenaline-fueled act of betting. On the surface, they can look identical. A click of a button, a transfer of capital, but internally, they are worlds apart. The difference is the answer to a single critical question. Are you seeking a financial return, or are you seeking an emotional thrill? The gambler is addicted to the thrill of being right. They crave action. They check their phone every 5 minutes, not out of diligence, but for a hit of dopamine. They are drawn to the siren song of the hot stock, the volatile cryptocurrency, or the speculative venture. Not because the fundamentals are sound, but because the story is exciting. Their research is not a deep dive into balance sheets, but a shallow scan of headlines and social media hype, searching for confirmation of the story they so desperately want to believe. And here is the psychological trap that ensnares them. When a bet pays off, the gambler doesn't feel relief. They feel genius. A dangerous surge of euphoria confirms their brilliance, pushing them to take even greater, more reckless risks. They mistake luck for skill. But when a bet sours, it is not a financial loss, it is a personal insult. Their ego is wounded, and it demands revenge. They double down, throwing good money after bad, not out of strategy, but out of a desperate emotional need to win it back from the market that wronged them. The true alchemist use this with a quiet pity. They know they are not a gambler in a casino, they are a farmer in a field. They plant seeds in the fertile soil of undervalued assets, they nurture them with patience, they understand that the harvest is determined by the seasons and the quality of the soil, not by the frantic pulling of a slot machine lever. Their satisfaction comes not from the rush of a single jackpot, but from the quiet, immense fulfillment of watching an entire orchard grow over a lifetime. The gambler cannot tolerate this patient, boring process. Their ego demands entertainment. And you must understand this, the market is the greatest entertainer on earth. It offers a spectacular show of drama, hope, and despair, 24 hours a day. But the price of admission is always your capital. The market's true business is the slow, methodical transfer of wealth from the gambler to the farmer. And the ego of the gambler is the poison that willingly signs you up for that transfer.
The second poison is the fear of the herd. To understand this poison, you must first understand a fundamental truth of human survival. For 100,000 years on the plains of the savannah, the single most dangerous thing you could do was to be alone. To be separated from the tribe was a death sentence. Safety was in the center of the herd. This instinct is burned into our DNA. It is a primal, powerful force that screams at us, do not be left behind. In the modern financial world, this life-saving instinct becomes a wealth-destroying curse. It begins subtly. You're at a holiday party, a barbecue, a family gathering. Everyone is talking about it. A new stock, a new technology, a new asset that only seems to go up. They speak of their effortless profits. They look like geniuses. You, who have been following a slow, deliberate strategy, start to feel a frantic, electric anxiety. It's the fear of missing out. The whisper in the back of your mind starts to grow. Am I the only one who doesn't see it? Am I the fool for being so cautious? The whisper becomes a roar. The pressure to conform, to join the winning team becomes immense, and so you buy. You buy not because you have studied the balance sheet, not because you have a 10-year thesis on the asset, but because you want to silence the anxiety of being left behind. You have just taken your first step into the center of the herd precisely when it is most crowded and therefore most dangerous. Then, the cycle inevitably turns. The headlines that once celebrated the boom now scream of the bust. The pundits on television who looked euphoric now look grave.
The friends who spoke of their easy profits are now silent. The market is a sea of red arrows. And that same primal instinct flips with terrifying violence. The fear of missing out is replaced by the raw, visceral terror of total loss. Your mind is no longer a tool for analysis. It is a klaxon alarm shrieking, "Get out, save what's left." The herd is stampeding for the exit. And so, you sell. You sell not because the long-term value of the asset has fundamentally changed, but to make the pain stop. You sell at the point of maximum pessimism, crystallizing your loss and transferring your wealth to those who were waiting for this very moment. Because the alchemist, the true investor, operates on a different plane. They see the herd not as a source of safety, but as a powerful signal. They understand that the herd is always in the middle, but catastrophically wrong at the extremes. They use the emotions of the crowd as a contrary indicator. When the party is at its loudest and the last skeptic has capitulated, they're not buying, they are quietly selling their holdings to the euphoric crowd. And when the streets are filled with panic and the news declares the end of the world, they are not selling. They are calmly consulting their research and beginning to buy the world's greatest assets from the terrified herd at prices they haven't seen in a decade. To follow the herd is to guarantee yourself a return of the average at best and catastrophic loss at worst. The path to building a true, lasting fortune is often a profoundly lonely one. It requires the courage to stand still when the herd is stampeding and the conviction to walk confidently into the storm when everyone else is running for shelter.
The third poison is the impatience of the amateur. This is not a simple flaw of character. It is a cognitive itch, a constant gnawing anxiety that whispers a single destructive lie into your ear. It's not working fast enough. This poison turns the act of investing from a peaceful process of cultivation into a frantic race against an imaginary clock. The amateur feels this viscerally. They make a sound, prudent investment, a solid index fund, a blue chip stock, and then they begin the ritual of self-torture. They check their portfolio 10 times a day. They see the siren song of a speculative stock doubling in a week and feel a surge of envy and regret. They see their own investment grow by a mere fraction of a percent and feel the existential dread that they are falling behind, that they have made a mistake. Their impatience makes them blind to the most powerful force in the financial universe. To understand this, you must know the parable of the Chinese bamboo tree. When the farmer plants the seed of this remarkable tree, he waters it diligently. For the first year, nothing happens. There is no visible growth. He waters and fertilizes it for a second year, and nothing happens. The third year, nothing. The fourth year, still nothing. His neighbors, who planted fast-growing annual crops, mock him for his foolishness and his empty field. By all outside appearances, his efforts are a complete failure. Then, in the fifth year, something extraordinary happens. The bamboo tree breaks through the ground, and in a period of just 6 weeks, it grows 90 feet into the air. The question is, did the tree grow 90 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow in 5 years? The answer is 5 years. For 4 years, while the world saw nothing, the tree was building a vast, complex, and powerful root system beneath the surface, a foundation strong enough to support the explosive growth that was to come. This is the I get it moment. Your investment portfolio is the Chinese bamboo tree. The consistent, boring contributions you make are the watering and fertilizing. The 4 years of seemingly no progress is the slow, silent, invisible magic of compound interest building your capital base, your root system. The impatience of the amateur is the mindset that digs up the seed in year 3 because it hasn't seen a tree yet, destroying the very foundation that was being built. The alchemist understands this. They find peace in the process of building the root system. They know that the most powerful work is done in silence and is invisible to the untrained eye. They're not waiting, they're cultivating. They're content to look foolish to their neighbors for a few years because they know they are not planting an annual crop. They're growing a forest. The impatience of the amateur is a self-inflicted theft of a magnificent future traded for the fleeting relief of a mediocre present.
The fourth poison is the myopia of the speculator. Myopia is the clinical term for nearsightedness. It is a defect of the eye that prevents you from seeing distant objects clearly. In finance, it is a defect of the mind. It is a form of mental tunnel vision that prevents you from seeing beyond the current quarter, the current news cycle, the current price on the screen. The speculator is addicted to the immediate, and this addiction renders them blind to the vast horizon of real wealth. To understand this, imagine two sea captains embarking on a long voyage across a vast ocean. The first captain is the speculator. He stands at the very bow of the ship, clinging to the railing, his eyes fixed on the waves immediately in front of him. His entire reality is the chaotic, unpredictable dance of the water. A large wave rises, a bad quarterly report, and he frantically turns the wheel to avoid it. A strong gust of wind blows, a positive news headline, and he changes course to catch it. He is constantly reacting, his hands white-knuckled on the wheel, his heart racing with the anxiety of the immediate. He is incredibly busy, constantly turning, constantly adjusting. He mistakes this frantic activity for progress, but in reality, he is utterly lost, sailing in circles, a prisoner of the temporary weather.
The second captain is the alchemist. He is not at the bow, he is on the bridge, calm and composed. He is not looking down at the waves, he is looking up, and he is looking at his map. His map is his deep, fundamental research into his assets, the companies he owns, the land he holds. His map shows him the true underlying value of his holdings. And the things he looks up at are the stars, the great, silent, unmoving constellations of history and human nature. He knows that human beings will always need to eat, to communicate, to build. These are his stars, the timeless principles that guide his journey. When the same large wave, the bad quarterly report, hits his ship, he sees it, he feels it, but he does not panic. He glances at his map and at the stars. Have they changed? Has the fundamental value of his company disappeared? Have the timeless principles of human need been repealed? No. He understands the wave is just weather, a temporary, insignificant event in the context of a decade-long voyage. He holds his course steady and true, his eyes fixed on the distant destination. The speculator navigates by the waves. The alchemist navigates by the stars. The waves are the noise, the daily chatter, the fleeting emotions of the market. The stars are the immutable truths of value, time, and human behavior. The myopia of the speculator is the act of abandoning the map for the thrill of the storm. It is the poison that convinces you to trade the destination for the distraction, ensuring you remain forever lost at sea.
The fifth, and perhaps most costly poison, is the anchor of pride. This is the most insidious of all the mindsets, because it masquerades as a virtue. It disguises itself as loyalty, as conviction, as steadfastness. But in reality, it is nothing more than the ego's terror of being proven wrong. This poison is the little voice in your head that, when faced with a losing investment, refuses to accept reality. To understand its power, imagine you are the captain of a great ship, and your investment is your voyage. Your research was impeccable. Your thesis was brilliant. This ship, you told yourself, is unsinkable. Then you feel a shudder. The ship has struck something unforeseen. A small, almost imperceptible leak has begun. Your instruments, the stock charts, the quarterly reports, are telling you that you are taking on water.
The prideful captain's ego immediately rushes to the bridge. It silences the alarms. It whispers, "Do not panic. This is a temporary storm. The ship is sound. My calculations were correct. To abandon ship now would be to admit failure to the world. We will hold our course. We will be vindicated." And so, chained to the bridge by the anchor of pride, the captain ignores the mounting evidence. The small leak becomes a gaping hole. The ship lists, the decks flood, and still he holds. He would rather go down with the ship, a martyr to his own brilliance, than admit the voyage was a mistake. Now, imagine the alchemist that's captain. The ship strikes the same object. The same leak begins. The alchemist receives the same data, but their reaction is completely different. There is no emotion. There is no ego. There is only a cold, hard assessment of the facts. The original hypothesis that this voyage was safe has been proven false by new information. The mission is no longer to reach the original destination. The mission has changed. The new mission is to preserve the crew and the cargo, the capital. And so the alchemist gives a clear, unemotional order: abandon ship. They deploy the lifeboats, save the cargo, and watch from a safe distance as the failed vessel sinks beneath the waves. They have taken a loss, yes, but it is a small, controlled loss. Their capital is safe, ready to be deployed on a new, more seaworthy vessel. Selling a losing investment is not an admission that you were stupid. It is a declaration that you were smart enough to change your mind when presented with new evidence. The act of selling is a tool, the most important tool a captain has. It is the surgical removal of a cancer before it spreads. It is the pruning of a dead branch so the tree can grow stronger. The anchor of pride convinces you that this tool is a symbol of your failure. The alchemist knows it is a symbol of their discipline. They know that the only way to sail toward a prosperous future is to have the courage to cut the anchor that chains you to a failing past.
The sixth poison is the illusion of complexity. This is the most insidious trap set by the modern financial world, and it is designed to prey on a single, deep-seated human fear: the fear of looking stupid. The industry has built an empire on a simple, unspoken lie: that if something is complicated, it must be sophisticated, and if you don't understand it, you are the one who is lacking. To see through this illusion, you must understand the story of two watchmakers. Imagine you are looking to buy a fine watch, a legacy piece. You enter the workshop of the first watchmaker. The room is a chaotic marvel. Gears are scattered everywhere, complex astronomical charts cover the walls, and the watchmaker himself speaks in a dizzying whirlwind of impenetrable jargon. He presents you with his creation. This, he says, is the chronosyncratic tourbillon 7000. It features a gyroscopic escapement, quad-axial rotation, and a thermocompensated isochronal oscillator.
You are lost. You are intimidated. You nod along, pretending to understand because you don't want to appear foolish. The watch is a tangled web of visible gears and dials, a spectacle of complexity. The price is astronomical, justified, he explains, by its incredible sophistication. You leave feeling impressed, but also confused, and a little bit smaller. Then you enter the workshop of the second watchmaker. The room is the opposite. It is clean, minimalist, and perfectly ordered. On a simple velvet cloth sits his creation. The watch is elegant, simple, with a clean face and 3 perfect hands. You ask him to explain it. He picks it up and says, a watch has 3 jobs. It must capture energy, regulate its release with perfect consistency, and display the result honestly. This watch does those 3 things with fewer parts, made of better materials than any other. It is simple, so it is reliable. It is honest, so it is beautiful. It will tell the time perfectly for your great-grandchildren. That is all it needs to do. The first watchmaker is the modern financial industry. The second watchmaker is the alchemist. The financial industry sells you the chronosyncratic tourbillon, the convoluted hedge fund strategy, the synthetic collateralized debt obligation, the structured note with a 100-page prospectus. They use the language of complexity to justify their exorbitant fees, and to make you feel that you need them, the high priests of a secret knowledge. The alchemist, the true investor, seeks out the second watch. They look for the simple, powerful, and honest business model. Warren Buffett once explained his investment in Coca-Cola by saying it costs a penny to make, they sell it for $1, it's addictive, and it's available all over the world. That is the genius of the second watchmaker. The illusion of complexity is a poison that convinces you to trade your common sense for someone else's jargon. The alchemist knows that true genius is not found in making things complicated. It is found in the ruthless, brilliant, and courageous pursuit of simplicity.
The final and most corrosive poison is the poison of entitlement. If the other 6 mindsets are diseases that can cripple a fortune, this is its terminal cancer. It is the silent, slow-acting agent that rots a dynasty from the inside out.
often leaving a hollow shell that collapses generations after the poison first took hold. Entitlement is the mindset that believes wealth is a right, not a responsibility. It is the end result of forgetting the struggle that built the fortune in the first place. To understand its devastating power, you must understand the parable of the Great Fire. Imagine the founder of a dynasty, the first generation. In the freezing cold of a dark wilderness with nothing but an axe and a flint, they toiled. They chopped the wood, they gathered the kindling, and through sheer force of will, they shielded a tiny, fragile spark until it grew into a small, life-giving flame. For years, they tended this flame, adding logs, protecting it from the wind and rain, until it became a great, roaring bonfire that could warm their entire family and light up the darkness for miles around. This fire is their fortune. The second generation is born into the warmth of this fire. They did not have to chop the wood or face the cold. They have only ever known the light and the comfort. Then comes the third generation, the one most susceptible to the poison. They arrive to find the magnificent bonfire, and they believe it is a permanent feature of the landscape, like a mountain or a river. They believe its purpose is to serve them. They warm their hands, they enjoy the light, and they are content. But they do not bring any wood.
And slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the fire begins to shrink. The great logs are consumed, turning into glowing embers. The heat lessens, the light recedes. The entitled heir looks at the dying fire with a sense of confusion and betrayal. They complain about the quality of the wood their grandfather used. They blame the cold wind. They cannot comprehend why the fire, which has always been there, is now failing them. The alchemist, the custodian, arrives at the same fire, but they see it with different eyes. They do not see a source of comfort. They see a profound responsibility. They understand the fundamental physics of fire. It requires constant fuel. It is a process, not a permanent state. Their first instinct is not to warm their hands, but to pick up the axe. They understand that their sacred duty is not merely to enjoy the fire, but to go out into the cold wilderness and gather more wood, to make the fire even bigger and brighter for the generation that will follow them. Wealth is not a pile of gold. It is a fire. It requires constant energy, constant vigilance, and constant work to sustain it. Entitlement is the poison that convinces you that the fire will burn forever on its own. It is the passive, consumptive mindset that warms itself by the flames while the fuel turns to ash. The custodian knows the truth. Every generation must be a fire builder, or they will be the ones left to shiver in the silent, cold darkness of a forgotten legacy.
These are the 7 great dissolvents, the mental acids that corrode the vessel of wealth. By recognizing them, by holding them up to the light of your own awareness, you render them powerless. The purification is the essential first step. Thank you for joining us inside CapitalSanctum. Now that the vessel is pure, we can begin the work of creation. In our next chapter, we will explore the formula of coagulation, the alchemical process of forging your first truly invincible asset from the raw elements of the market. To continue your journey, subscribe to CapitalSanctum and gain access to the principles that are not shared with the outside world. In our last chapter, we performed the essential purification. We identified the 7 toxic mindsets that dissolve fortunes, clearing the ground upon which a true legacy can be built. Now that the foundation is clean, the work of creation begins. Welcome to the 3rd chapter of the Alchemist's Ledger, the Formula of Coagulation. In ancient alchemy, coagulation was the process of turning a liquid into a solid, of bringing something tangible and stable out of a fluid, chaotic state. In finance, the market is that chaotic state, a swirling ether of speculation, noise, and fleeting opportunities. Our work today is to pull from that chaos a single, solid, and almost invincible asset. This is not a stock tip. It is a lesson in architecture. we are going to learn how to identify and understand the blueprint for a financial fortress, a business so dominant, so protected from competition that it functions less like a company and more like a kingdom, collecting tribute from the world for generations. This structure has a name, and it is the single most important concept in the Alchemist's playbook.
The financial fortress. This is the very definition of an invincible asset. In the brutal and unforgiving landscape of medieval Europe, a kingdom's survival depended not on the size of its army, but on the strength of its castle. An army could be defeated in the field, but a well-built fortress could withstand any siege. It could survive the harshest winters, the most determined rivals, and the relentless passage of time. In the world of finance, nothing has changed. Every great company, every truly generational asset is a financial fortress. The business itself is the castle, and its long-term survival depends not on a single popular product, but on the depth and width of its economic moat. The moat is the single most important concept in the Alchemist's playbook. It is the invisible barrier, the structural advantage that protects the castle from invasion by competitors. While the amateur investor is dazzled by the castle's beautiful flags, its latest product, or its charismatic CEO, the alchemist ignores the flags and inspects the moat. This moat is not made of water, it is forged from 4 powerful, almost magical elements. Sometimes the moat is a powerful brand. It is a name so deeply embedded in the human mind that it becomes a permanent piece of our cultural furniture. Think of Coca-Cola. The name itself is a fortress, built over a century with billions of dollars in advertising. A rival can create a better-tasting soft drink, but they cannot buy the memories, the nostalgia, and the global recognition that the name Coca-Cola commands. That brand is a moat of loyalty that is almost impossible to breach. Other times, the moat consists of high switching costs. This is a fortress with walls so high and a drawbridge so difficult to cross that its citizens, the customers, find it too painful to leave. Think of the bank that holds your mortgage, your checking account, and your investments. The thought of moving all of that, the paperwork, the automatic payments, the direct deposits, is so exhausting that you simply stay, even if a rival offers a slightly better deal. The inconvenience of leaving is the moat that protects the bank's profits. And in its most powerful form, the moat is a network effect. This is a fortress that grows stronger every time a new citizen enters its walls. Think of a credit card company like American Express. The more customers that carry the card, the more merchants are forced to accept it. And the more merchants that accept it, the more valuable the card becomes to its customers. The network itself is the defense. The kingdom's very size becomes its shield. The alchemist understands that the product being sold is almost irrelevant. The fortress and its moat are everything. And here is the crucial shift in perspective. A company with a deep, wide moat is not really in the business of selling you something. It is in the business of taxing you. It has achieved a position of such dominance, such structural power, that its profits are no longer a reward for innovation, they are a tribute paid by a captive audience. You are not buying a company that sells sugary water or banking services or payment processing. You are buying a piece of a kingdom that has the permanent, unchallengeable right to collect a small tax from a significant portion of the global economy. The first step in the formula of coagulation, therefore, is to stop looking for dazzling products and start training your eye to see these hidden moats. The alchemist's great work is to become a master scout, capable of identifying these indestructible fortresses in a landscape littered with vulnerable camps.
Within the kingdom of a financial fortress, there is a special kind of structure. It is not the castle keep, nor the high walls. It is something far more elegant and far more profitable. It is the indispensable toll bridge. Imagine a great ancient city, a hub of all commerce, divided by a wide, treacherous river. For centuries, the only way to cross was by a slow and dangerous ferry. Then, a visionary builder spends a decade and a fortune constructing a magnificent stone bridge. It is a masterpiece of engineering, its arches strong enough to withstand any flood. Once the bridge is built, the work is essentially done.
A single toll collector is hired, and now every merchant, every traveler, every piece of cargo that wishes to move from one side of the economy to the other must cross this bridge. The toll is not exorbitant. It is a small, almost painless fee, but it is paid day after day by thousands upon thousands, creating a torrent of predictable, ever-flowing cash. The owner of the bridge does not need to innovate. He does not need a marketing department. He does not worry about his competitors, because there are none. He simply owns the choke point. This is the most beautiful business model in the world, and the alchemist understands that these bridges are hidden all around us, often in plain sight. Consider the invisible bridges that span the globe of modern commerce. When you use a credit card to buy a cup of coffee, your money must travel from your bank to the coffee shop's bank. The bridge that allows for that instantaneous, secure crossing is the payment network, a Visa or a MasterCard. For allowing your $5 to cross, the network collects a tiny, almost invisible toll of a few cents. Now, multiply that tiny toll by the billions of transactions that happen every single day in nearly every country on Earth. The result is one of the most powerful and profitable business models ever conceived. A rival cannot simply build another bridge. The cost of replicating that global network of banks and merchants is practically infinite. The amateur investor is obsessed with the trucks that cross the bridge. They worry about which trucking company is the most innovative, which cargo is the most popular this year. Is it coffee? Is it electronics? Is it clothing? They spend their lives betting on the trucks. The alchemist ignores the trucks. They know the cargo will always change, and the trucking companies will fight each other into bankruptcy. They are only interested in owning the bridge itself. Because the bridge does not care what is being transported. The bridge does not care which trucking company is in fashion. The bridge only knows that commerce must flow, and as it flows, the tribute will be collected. Owning a piece of an indispensable toll bridge means you are no longer betting on a single company's success. You are taking a small, quiet, and perpetual commission on the very act of capitalism.
A fortress of stone is a powerful defense. An indispensable toll bridge is a source of effortless wealth. But there is another kind of moat, perhaps the most potent of all. It is not built of physical materials, but of pure intellect. It is a fortress whose walls are invisible, a bridge whose toll is collected in the mind. It is the power of a secret formula. In the world of alchemy, the ultimate goal was to possess the magnum opus, the great work, the secret recipe that could create gold. In finance, this is a literal reality. The most durable empires are often built not on what they physically produce, but on a single, secret idea. Consider the perfect example, the Coca-Cola Company. What is the physical product? It is flavored, carbonated sugar water. From a purely material standpoint, it is trivial to replicate. Any competitor with basic chemistry knowledge can create a similar tasting, brown, bubbly liquid. If you were to analyze the company based solely on its physical assets, the bottling plants, the trucks, the vending machines, you would fundamentally misunderstand the source of its power. Because the amateur sees a beverage company, the alchemist sees an empire of intellectual property. The real company, the source of its staggering wealth, is an idea. It is a secret formula famously locked away in a vault in Atlanta. It is a brand name, a perfect red and white script that is more recognizable to the global population than almost any other symbol on Earth. It is a century of carefully cultivated nostalgia, an emotional connection that links the taste of the drink to memories of summer, of happiness, of a shared human experience. This is the secret formula in its truest sense. It is not just a recipe, it is an incantation of chemistry, marketing, and psychology. A rival can build a factory, but they cannot build a time machine and replicate the last 100 years of global memory. A competitor can create a drink, but they cannot legally call it Coke. The company's physical factories could burn to the ground tomorrow and the business would survive. Why? Because the true asset, the idea, would remain unharmed. This is the nature of a secret formula moat.
You are not investing in a company that makes things. You are investing in a company that owns a legally protected, culturally embedded, and psychologically powerful idea. You see the same pattern in a pharmaceutical company with a life-saving patent, or a tech giant with a proprietary algorithm that no one else can decipher. The product they sell is merely the vessel. The secret formula is the treasure contained within. When you own a piece of such a company, you own a monopoly not on a product, but on a specific, deeply ingrained human desire. And that is a source of power that is almost impossible to overthrow.
We have learned to identify the financial fortress and its most powerful designs. A novice, armed with this knowledge, might now believe the work is simple, find the most perfect, indestructible fortress in the world, and buy it. This leads us to a profound and dangerous paradox, a lesson that separates the merely knowledgeable investor from the truly wise one. The most perfect asset is often the worst possible investment. This is the law of the price of perfection. To understand this, imagine you are not an investor, but a master gemologist. You are presented with a diamond. It is the most perfect diamond in the world, flawless, perfectly cut, with a fire and brilliance that takes your breath away. It is by every conceivable metric the single greatest diamond on earth. The amateur collector sees this gem and is overcome with desire. They see its perfection as the ultimate prize. The appraiser confirms its value is $1 million, and the collector eagerly pays the price. They are proud. They have acquired the best. They have made no mistake in judging the quality of the asset. But the alchemist, the master gemologist, looks at the same transaction with a quiet sense of tragedy. The alchemist also recognizes the diamond's perfection, but their primary question is not, is this a perfect diamond? Their question is, can I create value from this transaction? And at a price of $1 million, the answer is no. When you pay the perfect price for a perfect asset, you have left no room for error, no margin of safety, and most importantly, no room for growth. You have simply exchanged one form of value, cash, for another, equivalent form of value, the diamond. You have not created wealth, you have merely transferred it. Your best case scenario is that the diamond's value keeps pace with inflation. Your worst case scenario is that the market for perfect diamonds cools and you are left with a loss. The alchemist knows the real work, the real creation of wealth, is not found in buying perfection at a perfect price. It is found in the search for imperfection. They seek out the dusty, uncut stone that holds a flawless diamond within it. They look for the beautiful gem that is being sold by a distressed owner who must part with it for half its true worth. The amateur asks, is this a great company? The alchemist asks, at this price, is this a great investment? These are two profoundly different questions. The landscape of the stock market is littered with the portfolios of amateurs who have done nothing but buy wonderful companies at terrible prices. They have paid the price of perfection and are left wondering why their fortunes do not grow. The alchemist, therefore, is a hunter of discrepancy. They seek out the gap between the current price and the true underlying value. That gap, that discount, is the source of all profit. It is the margin of safety that protects them from error. It is the fertile ground in which wealth is actually created. They know that perfection is not a goal, it is a ceiling. And the art of alchemy is not to admire the ceiling, but to build the foundations brick by brick from the ground up.
We have journeyed far. We have learned to identify the financial fortress, to recognize the indispensable toll bridge, to value the secret formula, and to understand the profound danger of paying the price of perfection. The amateur, standing at the foot of this mountain of knowledge, now makes a predictable and fatal error. They try to do everything at once. They look at the vast, complex portfolios of the world's great dynasties and feel a paralyzing sense of overwhelm. They try to conjure a palace from thin air, and in doing so, they achieve nothing. The alchemist knows this is folly. An empire is not conjured from the ether. It is built, stone by single stone. Your great work, the true formula of coagulation, is not to build an empire overnight. It is to focus all of your energy, all of your research and all of your capital on acquiring your first, single, perfect stone. This first stone is not a speculative bet. It is not a fleeting stock tip. It is the physical manifestation of all we have discussed. It is a piece of a financial fortress. It has a deep, wide, and understandable economic moat. It is purchased with discipline at a significant discount to its true underlying value. It could be a single share of a dominant global company. It could be the title to a small income-producing piece of property. The form is less important than its character. It must be an asset of such high quality that you would be content to hold it for the rest of your life, even if the market were to close for a decade. And with that single act, the most profound transmutation occurs. The moment you own that first stone, you are no longer a speculator hoping to get lucky. You are a founder. You are no longer a consumer trading your time for money. You are a custodian, a true capitalist commanding an asset that works for you while you sleep. This first stone is the foundation upon which your entire dynasty will be built. The small tribute from this first holding becomes the seed capital for the second. The dividends from the first two stones help acquire the third. This is the slow, silent, and unstoppable process of compounding made real. An empire is nothing but a mountain of these perfect stones laid one on top of the other with the patience of 1,000 years. Your great work, for now, is not to buy. It is to begin the search. It is to scour the landscape of the market, using the principles we have discussed to identify your first stone. When you find it, all the theory in the world will become a tangible reality. Thank you for joining us inside CapitalSanctum. We have now learned how to purify the mind and how to lay the first stone. In our next chapter, we will learn how to accelerate the work. We will explore the law of multiplication, the alchemical secret of using debt not as a chain, but as a lever to conquer the world. To continue your journey into the art of financial alchemy, subscribe to CapitalSanctum and gain access to the principles that are not shared with the outside world.
For most people, the word debt triggers a feeling of cold dread. It is a four-letter word synonymous with struggle, with slavery, with a heavy chain that limits our freedom. We are taught from our earliest age to fear it, to avoid it at all costs. And for the vast majority, that is wise advice. But in the world of the alchemist, this is a half-truth. And a half-truth is the most dangerous lie of all. Welcome to the fourth chapter of The Alchemist's Ledger, the law of multiplication. Today, we take that object of fear, debt, and we place it on the workbench. We will discover that debt is not inherently good or evil. It is a form of fire. In the hands of a child, it is a tool of destruction. But in the hands of a master, it is the force that can forge an empire from a single stone. In this chapter, we will learn to be the master. We will decode the two faces of debt and reveal the precise methods the wealthy use to wield this fire to their advantage, multiplying their fortunes at a speed that is impossible to achieve with their own capital alone. This is the secret of the lever. The ancient Greek mathematician Archimedes once made a boast that has echoed through the centuries. He said, "Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world." This was not a boast about physical strength, it was a statement about a fundamental law of the universe, the power of leverage. With the right tool, a single small force can command an object of immense, impossible weight. The lever does not create energy, it multiplies it. The alchemist understands that their own capital, their own power, is finite. It is a small force in a world of giants. To achieve a result that is disproportionate to their own effort, they require a force multiplier. That multiplier is the great lever of strategic debt. In this model, the borrowed capital is the lever itself. The asset you are acquiring, the business, the real estate,
is the fulcrum, the stable point on which the lever pivots, and your own small investment is the gentle, steady pressure you apply to one end. The result is that you, a single individual, can command and control an asset 100 times your own weight. You can move the world. But the lever is a law of physics, and it is brutally indifferent. It amplifies force in both directions. While it can lift a treasure, it can also crush the one who wields it unwisely. If the fulcrum breaks, if the asset fails, the lever amplifies the force of that failure with the same dispassionate power. This is why the amateur, who does not understand the physics of this tool, is so often destroyed by it. And this brings us to the most profound shift in understanding. The amateur believes they must personally carry the immense weight of the debt, and so they are crushed by the psychological burden of it. They see $1 million loan and feel $1 million of weight on their own shoulders. The alchemist sees it for what it is, a simple machine. It is a tool separate from the self, like a hammer or a telescope. They are not burdened by the weight of the lever, they are empowered by the force it directs. Their focus is entirely on the strength and stability of the fulcrum, the quality of the asset. By removing their ego and their fear from the equation, they can wield this tool with the cold, detached precision of a master engineer. They understand that the difference between a lever that builds an empire and a lever that crushes a man to dust lies not in the lever itself, but in the wisdom and discipline of the hand that guides it.
The alchemist's great lever, strategic dent, is a tool of immense power. But before one can learn to wield it, one must first learn to distinguish it from its evil twin, its corrupt shadow. For the word debt, as the world uses it, is a lie. It is a single name given to two profoundly different forces, a chain and a key. To mistake one for the other is the most common and catastrophic error in the world of finance. This is the lesson of the two debts. First, we must understand the chains of consumption. This is the debt that the world knows and fears. It is the credit card balance that swells from buying clothes and dinners. It is the car loan that finances a depreciating piece of metal. It is the personal loan for an exotic vacation. This is consumer debt, and its singular purpose is to pull your future into your present. It allows you to enjoy a lifestyle today that you have not yet earned, and the price you pay is your own freedom tomorrow. This debt is a leak in the vessel of your life. Every month, a portion of your vital energy, your income, which you traded your precious time to acquire, does not go toward building your future. Instead, it leaks out to pay for the ghosts of your past consumption. The car's value has fallen, the memory of the vacation has faded, but the chain remains. It is a heavy, relentless anchor. Every month, you are forced to drag it forward, and it gets heavier with the corrosive weight of interest. The person shackled by this debt is not a capitalist. They are a modern-day serf, working a significant portion of their life, not for themselves or their family, but for the bank that holds their chain. This debt is born from emotion, from impatience, from the desire for social status, from the need for instant gratification. It is the great tool of enslavement.
But the alchemists, when they speak of debt, are speaking a different language entirely. They speak of the key to the kingdom. This is strategic debt. Its singular purpose is not to consume, but to conquer. It is never used to buy a liability. It is used exclusively to acquire an asset. This is the mortgage on an income-producing rental property. This is the loan used to purchase a profitable cash-flowing business. This debt is not a weight on your shoulders. It is an army of soldiers under your command. It is a clone of yourself, sent out into the world to work for you. When you use your own $100,000 to buy a $100,000 asset, you have one worker. When you use that same $100,000 as a down payment to acquire a $1 million asset with a loan, you now command 10 workers. You have multiplied your power by a factor of 10. And here is the beautiful, profound difference.
The cash flow from the asset, the rent from the tenants, the profits from the business, is what pays the monthly service on the debt. The asset itself works to pay for its own acquisition. Consumer debt is a chain that forces you to work for the bank. Strategic debt is a key that unlocks an asset that works for the bank on your behalf while you get to keep the asset. One is a transaction where you trade your future freedom for a fleeting present comfort. The other is a transaction where you command the bank's capital to build your future empire. One is a prison, the other is a weapon. The master alchemist does not fear fire. They have simply learned to distinguish the wildfire that consumes from the focused flame of the forge that creates.
We have drawn the line between the chain and the key. We understand the profound difference between the two debts. Now, we must learn to turn the key. We must enter the engine room of the alchemist's workshop and see the great lever in action. This is the practical, mathematical magic of the multiplier effect. To witness this, let us observe two men, each with $100,000 of their own capital to invest in a growing real estate market. The first man is a prudent, conservative investor. He fears debt. He takes his $100,000 and buys a single, excellent property for its full price in cash. He now owns 100% of a $100,000 asset. He has no debt. He sleeps soundly. The second man is the alchemist. He understands the power of the lever. He takes his same $100,000, but he does not buy a single property. Instead, he uses it as a 20% down payment to acquire a $500,000 property. The bank, seeing the quality of the asset, happily provides the remaining $400,000 as strategic debt. He too owns a magnificent asset, but he controls one 5 times larger than the first man. Now, let 1 year pass. The real estate market is strong, and both properties appreciate in value by a conservative 10%. Let us return to the first man. His $100,000 property is now worth $110,000. He has made a profit of $10,000. On his initial investment of $100,000, this represents a respectable 10% return. He is pleased. Now let us return to the alchemist. His $500,000 property has also appreciated by 10%. 10% of $500,000 is $50,000. The alchemist has made a profit of $50,000. Observe this moment closely. Both men started with the same capital. They invested in the same market with the same rate of appreciation. But the alchemist generated 5 times the profit. Why? The first man achieved a 10% return on his own money. The alchemist achieved a 10% return on the bank's money. His own initial investment of $100,000 has generated a $50,000 profit. That is not a 10% return. It is a 50% return on his capital. He did not work 5 times harder. He was not 5 times smarter. He simply used a better tool. He used the great lever. The debt did not weigh him down. It lifted him up. The asset itself is what secures the loan, and the cash flow from the asset is what services it. He has multiplied his own force, his own capital, by a factor of 5. This is the multiplier effect. It is the cold, hard mathematical equation that explains how the great fortunes of the world are built. They are not built by the slow, linear addition of one's own savings.
The great lever, as we have seen, is a tool of almost supernatural power, but it is brutally indifferent. It amplifies failure as powerfully as it amplifies success. In a falling market, the force of that lever can turn against its wielder, crushing them with breathtaking speed. The amateur, hearing this, becomes terrified of the lever. They see only the risk. The alchemist, however, does not fear the lever, because they know that with every great weapon there must come a great shield.
That shield, the defensive counterpart to the offensive power of leverage, is the single most important concept in strategic investing. It is called cash flow. To understand its protective power, let us return to our story, but this time we will change the weather. The Alchemist has just used their $100,000 to acquire a $500,000 orchard, but now a panic sweeps the land. A brutal recession hits. The perceived market price of all orchards plummets by a staggering 30%. The amateur investor, who owns their small orchard outright, sees their net worth fall from $100,000 to $70,000. They are wounded, but they survive. The speculator, who also used leverage but did not understand this next principle, is wiped out. Their $500,000 asset is now worth only $350,000, far less than the $400,000 loan they owe. The bank calls their loan and they are forced to sell, losing everything. But the alchemist remains calm. Amidst the storm, they are untouched. Why? Because the alchemist did not buy an orchard for its market price. They bought it for its harvest. They knew that this orchard produces a steady, predictable crop of 10,000 bushels of fruit every single year. The cash from selling that fruit is more than enough to pay the annual service on the bank loan and still leave a handsome profit for the alchemist to live on. While their neighbors are panicking about the falling price of orchards, the alchemist is asking a completely different and far more important question. Are the trees still producing fruit? And the answer is yes. The storm of the market, the emotional panic of the other investors, cannot stop the sun from shining or the trees from growing. The cash flow from the harvest is real. It is a tangible, physical reality. The market price of the orchard, on the other hand, is just an opinion. It is a fleeting number on a piece of paper, dictated by the temporary fear of the herd. The cash flow is the shield. It pays the debt, removing the threat of the bank calling the loan. It provides the income that allows the alchemist to ignore the market's madness and simply wait for the storm to pass. The cash flow is the anchor of reality in a sea of emotional speculation. It allows you to hold the asset indefinitely, giving you the power to outlast any crisis. You are not forced to sell at the bottom because the asset itself is paying for its own survival. This is the profound secret that separates the master from the amateur. The amateur asks, how much is it worth? The alchemist asks, how much does it produce? The first question leads to speculation and anxiety. The second leads to security and true lasting wealth. It is the shield that makes the sword safe to wield.
Before you can understand the key, you must first feel the weight of the chain. You must understand the nature of the prison that the majority of the world willingly builds for itself, brick by financial brick. This is the first and most common form of debt, and its true name is not credit. Its true name is the chains of consumption. The modern world is a grand theater of consumption, a relentless machine designed to make you feel inadequate. It whispers from every screen that your happiness, your status, your very worth as a person is just one purchase away. And it offers you a Faustian bargain, a magic wand to close that gap instantly. That wand is consumer debt. It is the credit card that pays for the dinner you can't quite afford. It is the car loan that puts you in a vehicle that impresses your neighbors. It is the financing plan for the vacation that will look so perfect on social media. This debt is a time machine, but it only travels in one direction. It pulls a piece of your future into your present. It allows you to enjoy a lifestyle today that you have not yet earned, and the price you pay is your own freedom tomorrow. This is not a metaphor. It is a mathematical certainty. When you buy a $1,000 television with a credit card, you have not made a simple purchase. You have opened a leak in the vessel of your life. Every month, a portion of your vital energy, your income, which you traded your precious time on this earth to acquire, does not go toward building your future. Instead, it leaks out to pay for the ghost of that television. And here's the cruelest part of the design.
the chain grows heavier on its own. The force of compound interest, which should be your greatest ally, is turned against you, becoming your most relentless enemy. That $1,000 television, paid for with minimum payments, can end up costing you $1,500, $2,000. But the alchemist does not measure the cost in dollars, they measure it in life. If you earn $50 an hour, that television did not cost you 20 hours of your life. After interest, it may have cost you 30 or even 40 hours. You have voluntarily traded an entire week of your finite, unrecoverable existence on this planet for a depreciating plastic screen. Consumer debt is a system that tricks you into selling your future freedom at a steep discount. You become a serf to your past self. You wake up every morning and go to work, not to build the life you want, but to pay for the lifestyle you've already consumed. The alchemist sees this not as a financial tool, but as a psychological disease, a self-imposed prison where the bars are forged from your own impatience and the lock is the approval of others. They understand that you cannot begin the great work of building an empire until you have first broken these chains.
The great lever has now been placed in your hands. You understand its physics. You can distinguish the key from the chain. You know that the shield of cash flow is what makes this power safe to wield. This is one of the most guarded principles in the Alchemist's Ledger. It is the mathematical engine that drives the creation of all great fortunes. It is a dangerous and transformative secret. Thank you for joining us inside CapitalSanctum. But what is the ultimate purpose of this great multiplication? What is the alchemist truly trying to create with all this leverage and all these assets? The final product is not more gold. It is the distillation of gold into something far more precious. It is the elixir of absolute freedom. In our next chapter, the final installment of this series, we will explore the principle of distillation. We will learn how to extract the essence of true autonomy from your assets and finally achieve the great work's ultimate goal. To learn how to transform your wealth into a life of purpose and freedom, subscribe to CapitalSanctum and complete the alchemist's journey.
In the preceding chapters of the Alchemist's Ledger, we have engaged in the great work. We learned to transmute knowledge into wisdom. We purified our minds of the toxic beliefs that dissolve fortunes. We forged our first invincible asset from the chaos of the market, and we mastered the law of multiplication to accelerate its growth. This brings us to the final and most vital question: why? Why engage in this difficult work? Why study the old laws? Why build the fortress? If the only goal is to end up with a larger number on a balance sheet, then the entire endeavor is a hollow and meaningless game. Welcome to the final chapter of this series, the Principle of Distillation. In ancient alchemy, after the crude materials were purified and coagulated, the final process was to gently heat the substance, allowing its purest, most volatile essence to rise as a vapor, leaving all the heavy, worthless dross behind. This vapor was the elixir, the very soul of the material. Today we learn to perform this final sacred act upon our own wealth. We will learn how to gently heat our assets and extract their soul, their true purpose. And that purpose is not more money. It is pure, absolute freedom.
The final distillation. The alchemist's great work does not end with the creation of gold. To believe so is the final and most tragic mistake a creator can make. It is the error that leads to the great paradox of the modern world, the existence of the wealthy slave. This is the man who is succeeded by every metric of society. His balance sheet is a fortress. His income is a mighty river, yet he is not free. He is a prisoner to the very empire he built. His days are a relentless series of meetings to manage his assets. His mind is a constant churn of anxiety over market fluctuations and geopolitical risks. He has built a beautiful gilded cage, and he has locked himself inside it. He has a fortune, but the fortune has him.
The master alchemist avoids this fate because they understand that the gold is not the prize. It is merely the raw material for the final and most sacred act of creation. This is the principle of distillation. The alchemist takes the totality of their assets, the stocks, the properties, the businesses, all the heavy, solid gold they have accumulated, and places it within the flask of a perfectly designed system. This system is the architecture of trusts, the hiring of brilliant managers, the creation of a family office. Then, they apply a gentle, intelligent heat. This heat is not a fire of liquidation, it is the slow, deliberate process of automation and delegation. It is the act of structuring the empire to run on its own principles, to function and grow without the constant frantic intervention of its creator. As the assets are heated by this intelligent structure, their purest essence begins to rise, leaving all the heavy, worthless dross behind. What is this dross, this thick, useless residue? It is the weight of the wealth itself. It is the ego that is tied to a daily stock price. It is the anxiety of management. It is the obligation to attend the endless meeting. It is the need to work. The dross is every part of the fortune that demands a piece of your life force in exchange for its existence. And what is the pure essence that rises as a vapor, leaving all that weight behind? It is not money. It is the effortless, predictable, and utterly passive stream of cash flow that emanates from the assets. It is the dividend that arrives without a phone call. It is the rent that is collected by a manager. It is the profit that is generated by a CEO you trust implicitly. It is the wealth working and perfect silent automation. This vapor is then collected and condensed, and the final product, the clear, weightless liquid that drips from the spout, is the elixir itself, pure, absolute freedom. This is the profound final secret. The ultimate purpose of accumulating capital is to build a machine so perfect, so self-sustaining, that you can eventually forget it exists. The wealth becomes the silent, invisible engine that powers your life, not the complex cockpit you must constantly pilot. This freedom is not the hedonism of the new rich. It is not the freedom to buy more things. It is the freedom of the philosopher, of the artist, of the true sovereign individual. It is the freedom to wake up on a Tuesday morning and have your day be a complete blank slate, its contents determined not by necessity, but by curiosity. It is the power to pursue a question without a thought to its profitability. It is the luxury of true, unhurried presence with the people you love. It is the ability to use your time, your finite, unrecoverable life force, in perfect alignment with your deepest values. The ultimate measure of wealth is not how much money you have, it is how much of your life you own. The final distillation is the alchemical process by which you cease to be a manager of capital and finally become the master of your own time.
The well of passive income. The final distillation, the extraction of freedom from wealth, is made possible by a single miraculous mechanism. It is the engine that powers the life of the truly free. It is called passive income. But to understand its profound power, we must first understand the life of the man it liberates, the water carrier. Imagine a village that needs water. Every single day, a man, the water carrier, wakes at dawn. He picks up 2 heavy buckets, walks the long dusty mile to the river, fills the buckets, and carries them back to the village to sell. His shoulders ache. His hands are calloused. His life is defined by this relentless, repetitive labor. His income is directly and forever tied to his own effort. 1 trip to the river equals 2 buckets of water. 1 day of work equals 1 day of pay. If he wants to earn more, he must make more trips. He can try to run faster or carry slightly larger buckets, but he is fundamentally limited by the laws of his own biology. He is limited by his time and his energy. If he falls ill, his income stops. If he wishes to rest, his income stops. He has a job, and a good one, but he is a slave to the clock and to his own body. He is trapped on the treadmill of active income. Now the alchemist arrives in the same village. He sees the water carrier's endless toil, and he asks a different question. He does not ask, "How can I carry more buckets?" He asks, "Why am I carrying buckets at all?" The alchemist forgoes the immediate income of carrying water.
Instead, he spends his days with a shovel and a blueprint. He sacrifices his present for his future. The villagers see him digging day after day, and they think him a fool. He is working, but he's earning nothing. But the alchemist is not just digging a hole, he is engineering a system. He's building a well, a pipeline that will connect the village directly to the river. The work is hard, it is lonely, and for a long time, it produces no reward. And then, one day, the work is finished. The alchemist turns a single spigot, and from the well, water begins to flow. It flows in the morning when he wakes. It flows in the afternoon while he reads a book in the shade. It flows at night while he sleeps. It flows whether he is healthy or ill, whether he is present or traveling the world. The water carrier is still making his trips, his life an endless loop of labor. The alchemist has built a system that has made his own labor obsolete. The well is his invincible asset. The effortless, endless stream of water is his passive income. This is the profound realization. The goal is not to get better at carrying buckets. The goal is to own the well. In the modern world, these wells are all around us, often hidden in plain sight. A portfolio of high-quality dividend-paying stocks is a well. You own a tiny piece of a global empire, and as a reward for your ownership, a share of the profits flows to you, whether you are at work or on vacation. A portfolio of rental properties is a well. You provide a roof over someone's head, and in exchange, a monthly tribute of rent flows to you, managed by a property agent, requiring almost none of your time. The royalties from a book you have written, a song you have composed, or a patent you have created is a well. The work was done once, in the past, and it continues to pay you for years, even decades into the future. This is the great work of the alchemist's life. It is the process of taking the capital earned through active labor, through carrying the buckets, and using it to build these wells one by one. The goal is to build so many and to make them so deep that the combined flow from all your wells is more than enough to fund your entire existence. The moment that happens, you are free. You have officially untethered your life from the clock. Your income is no longer a function of your time. It is a function of your ownership. You have graduated from being the labor to being the master. You have built your well.
The golden cage. We have learned to build the well. We have created the systems that generate passive income, the magical stream of wealth that flows while we sleep. By all measures, freedom should be at hand. And yet, it is at this very moment, on the precipice of true liberation, that the alchemist encounters the most subtle and tragic of all traps. It is a prison built not of iron, but of affluence. It is a cage whose bars are forged from pure gold. This is the golden cage, and its prisoner is the man who has successfully accumulated wealth but has failed to cultivate the mindset to enjoy it. He has built the well, but he cannot bring himself to put down the buckets. You see this figure everywhere in the highest echelons of society. He is the billionaire CEO who, despite having more money than his next 10 generations could ever spend, still grinds through 80-hour work weeks, sacrificing his health and his family. He is the master investor who has won the game but cannot stop playing, his self-worth so entwined with his latest market victory that he cannot bear to step away from the screen. He is the inheritor of a great fortune who, instead of using his freedom to pursue a passion, lives in a state of anxious paralysis, terrified of diminishing the very pile of gold that imprisons him. The bars of this cage are invisible, but they are stronger than steel. They are forged from a toxic alloy of 3 elements. The first is a deeply ingrained identity. The man has spent his entire life being the builder, the deal maker, the one in charge. His entire sense of self, of his own importance, is derived from his work and his accumulation.
To stop working, to simply be, feels like a form of death. He does not know who he is without the struggle. The open door of freedom looks to him like a terrifying, empty void. The second bar of the cage is habit. The relentless drive, the constant vigilance, the healthy paranoia that were so essential for building the fortune have become a permanent, reflexive part of his character. He has spent decades building the well, and now he cannot stop digging. The very habits that created his success now prevent him from enjoying its fruits. He is a soldier who has won the war but cannot stop fighting the phantom battles in his own mind. The final and strongest bar is fear. It is the fear that if he stops, if he delegates, if he trusts the systems he has built, it will all somehow collapse. It is the fear that the fire will go out the moment he stops feeding it. This fear, which was once a healthy motivator, has metastasized into a prison guard, whispering that his presence is always required, that his vigilance is the only thing holding back the chaos. And so he remains in his beautiful prison. He has all the money in the world, but none of the time. He has the freedom to do anything, but he lacks the freedom to do nothing. He has won the game, but he has forgotten why he started playing. The true alchemist, the master of the final distillation, understands this danger. They know that building the well is only the first half of the work. The second and far more difficult half is cultivating the inner wisdom to actually drink from it. It is the practice of slowly, deliberately, and courageously letting go. It is the transfer of trust from oneself to the systems one has created. It is the rediscovery of an identity that is separate from one's balance sheet. It is the courage to see the open door of the golden cage and to finally, peacefully step through it.
Buying back your time. We have built the well. The passive income flows, liberating us from the need to labor. This presents us with a new, profound choice. A choice that reveals the final layer of the alchemist's wisdom. What do you do with the fruits of your well? The amateur, having escaped the prison of mandatory work, immediately begins constructing a new one, a prison of complex consumption. They buy the sprawling mansion that requires a team to manage, the yacht that demands constant upkeep, the collection of cars that need maintenance. Their free time is consumed by the management of their possessions. The alchemist understands a truth so fundamental it is almost always overlooked. You are born with a finite, non-renewable, and ever-dwindling inheritance. It is the only asset that is distributed with perfect equality to both the pauper and the king. That inheritance is your time. Every day you are given 24 hours, every week 168. This is your mortal allowance. For most of your life, you are engaged in a simple transaction. You trade large portions of this precious, finite allowance for a fungible, infinite resource called money. This is the definition of a job. The ultimate purpose of wealth, the entire point of the great work, is to reverse this equation. The goal is to reach a point where you can begin to trade your money to buy back your time. This is the greatest luxury in the universe. It is not a watch, a car, or a house. It is the reclamation of your own life. How is this done? It is a ruthless and systematic war against any task that consumes your time but does not align with your genius or your joy. The alchemist views their day as a sacred vessel, and they are merciless in plugging any leaks. They hire a cleaner, not because they are lazy, but because the 4 hours spent scrubbing floors is 4 hours they can now spend reading, thinking, or being with their family. They hire a virtual assistant to manage their schedule, not out of self-importance, but because the 5 hours spent on administrative tasks is 5 hours they can now dedicate to strategic planning. They pay for the grocery delivery, the lawn service, the tax preparation, the travel booking. The amateur sees these as extravagant expenses. The alchemist knows they are the highest returning investments they will ever make. They are not buying a service. They are buying back their life, hour by precious hour.
This creates an unstoppable upward spiral. By delegating all lower-value tasks, they liberate their time and mental energy to focus only on the highest-value activities, nurturing their relationships, exploring new ideas, and overseeing their empire at the 10,000-foot level. These high-value activities inevitably generate more wealth, which in turn allows them to buy back even more of their time. This is the ultimate freedom. It is the power to strip your life down to its absolute essence, to the very few things that only you can do and that you most love to do. The number of hours in a day is the only true level playing field in the world. The final secret of the alchemists is that they have learned to use their gold to cheat the game.
The summit of enough. We have reached the end of our journey through the Alchemist's Ledger. We have transmuted knowledge into wisdom. We have purified our minds of the toxic beliefs that lead to ruin. We have forged the invincible asset, mastered the great lever, and learned to distill our wealth into the pure elixir of freedom. And now, we stand at the final gate. To pass through it is to understand the last and most sacred law of the great work. It is the wisdom that transforms the entire endeavor from a frantic race into a peaceful journey. It is the concept of enough. Imagine a man who decides to climb the highest mountain in the world. He is driven by a relentless ambition. He spends years training, acquiring the finest gear, and studying the treacherous paths. His entire identity becomes consumed by this single goal, to reach the top. The climb is a brutal, all-consuming struggle. He is focused only on the next step, the next handhold, the next agonizing inch of upward progress. The magnificent landscape that surrounds him is just an obstacle. The journey is not a source of joy, it is a trial to be endured. Then, one day, he does it. He stands at the very summit of the world. For a fleeting moment, there is a surge of triumphant euphoria. He has won. He has conquered. But then a terrifying question echoes in the thin, cold air. What now? He looks around and sees that there is no higher peak to climb. The game is over. The striving that defined his entire existence has vanished, and in its place, there is only a profound and terrifying emptiness. He is the king of a barren, frozen peak with nowhere left to go. This is the fate of the person who pursues wealth as an endless accumulation, a game of more. They spend their entire lives on the brutal upward climb, believing that happiness lies at the next milestone, the first million, the first 10, the first 100, but they are climbing a mountain with no summit. The disease of more has no cure, because the finish line is a mirage that recedes as you approach it. The alchemist, however, is on a different journey. They are also a climber, but they are not trying to conquer the highest mountain in the world. They are climbing their own mountain. And before they take their first step, they perform the most important act of the entire expedition. They define their summit. They sit down in a quiet room and ask the great, terrifying questions. What is the purpose of this wealth? What kind of life do I truly want to live? How much is enough to fund that life perfectly and forever? They calculate the number with the precision of an engineer. This number is not an arbitrary goal. It is a declaration of freedom. It is the peak of their personal mountain. It is their summit of enough. Now, their climb is transformed. The journey is no longer a frantic, anxious race. It is a calm, deliberate, and joyful ascent toward a known destination. And when they finally reach that summit, their reaction is not of frantic emptiness. It is of profound, soul-deep peace. They have arrived. They can finally stop climbing and, for the first time, turn around and truly see the magnificent view. This is the ultimate distillation,
It is the liberation from the very desire that started the journey. It is the final alchemical transformation of ambition into contentment. The great secret is that the work was never about the gold. The gold was merely the tool required to reach the summit. The real prize was always the view. The real prize was the freedom to stop climbing.
The great secret is that the work was never about the gold. The gold was merely the tool required to reach the summit. The real prize was always the view. The real prize was the freedom to stop climbing. And with that, the great work is complete. Together, we have journeyed through the Alchemist's Ledger. We learned to transmute raw information into the gold of wisdom. We purified our minds of the 7 toxic beliefs that lead to ruin. We forged an invincible asset from the chaos, and we mastered the great lever to multiply its power. And today, we have learned to distill it all into the final elixir of pure freedom. The ledger is now closed. The final secret is this: the goal is not to climb forever. The goal is to choose your mountain, reach its summit, and finally have the wisdom to enjoy the view. Thank you for joining us on this journey inside CapitalSanctum. The lessons of this ledger are now yours to command. If you are ready to continue your exploration into the unwritten rules of wealth, power, and a life well lived, subscribe to CapitalSanctum and become a permanent member of the inner circle. The library is vast, and there is much more to reveal.